We have got to stop sending jobs overseas. To those of you in the audience who are business people, pretty simple. If you're paying $12, $13, $14 an hour for factory workers, and you can move your factory south of the border, pay $1 an hour for labor, hire a young 25, that's assuming you've been in business for a long time, you've got a mature workforce. Pay $1 an hour for your labor, have no health care, that's the most expensive single element in making a car, have no environmental controls, no pollution controls, and no retirement, and you don't care about anything but making money, there will be a giant sucking sound going south.
Virtually every major newspaper in America had editorials saying, support NAFTA, Washington Post, New York Times, Wall Street Journal. Support NAFTA, it is good for the American worker. Well, it turns out that NAFTA, which of course was supported by every major corporation in America, supported by Wall Street, supported by all of the big money interests, well, it turns out that all of those projections regarding NAFTA turned out to be dead wrong. According to the well-respected economists at the Economic Policy Institute, NAFTA has led to the loss of more than 680,000 jobs. Not the creation of 1 million jobs, the loss of 680,000 American jobs. In 1993, the year before NAFTA was implemented, the United States had a trade surplus with Mexico of more than $1.6 billion. Last year, the trade deficit with Mexico was $53 billion.
There's a lot of things I don't know how to do, but I do know how to do business, and I do know what capitalism is. Capitalism is not plundering and pillaging. Capitalism is building and creating. Get it straight. Now, get it straight.
Well, we really underpredicted what the damage would be. So there has been a large increase in trade, but a lot of it's been a flood of new NAFTA imports. NAFTA did include investor protections. Those incentivized offshoring of U.S. investment and jobs. So while we've seen a flood of more trade, it's 700% of that is actually the imports. So we've had a growth in our trade deficit of almost 500%, 480%. So just the numbers. Before NAFTA, we had a slight surplus with Mexico in trade, and with Canada, we had about a $30 billion deficit. The end-of-year U.S. International Trade Commission official government trade data came out last week. We have a $177 billion combined NAFTA trade deficit. Using the administration's old multiplier of what that means for jobs, that's a net loss over accumulation of over 1 million jobs. So we have a trade agreement that's actually been a penalty on our export growth. And the only reason I mention that is the whole premise of NAFTA, its promise, 200,000 new U.S. jobs a year. Woo-hoo. But that was based on having an improved trade deficit reduction. Instead, we have a huge new trade deficit. So we've hemorrhaged jobs. And more importantly, the biggest effect of NAFTA is it's fundamentally transformed the composition of jobs available and therefore wages. And if you look at that whole block, all of the rules that were in NAFTA that promoted this downward pressure on wages, I mean, we lost 40,000 factories in those 20 years.
The North American Free Trade Agreement, or NAFTA, is now 20 years old. Back then, they promised us NAFTA would create jobs for all of us and stop the wave of illegal immigration from Mexico. So whatever happened to those jobs? And why are the immigrants still coming? In Reynosa, Mexico, there are dozens of new factories built by American companies. Caterpillar from Illinois is here, Kohler from Wisconsin, Corning from New York, Textiles from the South, and Delphi, the auto parts maker, from Michigan. Now here's what's left of the area around the once sprawling Delphi facility in Flint, Michigan, the birthplace of General Motors, Delphi's one-time parent company. And it's not just Flint. A recent study estimates that the total number of American jobs lost due to NAFTA is about 1 million. And Delphi is now one of Mexico's largest employers, with about 50 factories south of the border.
They shut right down and tore it down and took our jobs and put them over in Mexico and paid them people peanuts. Flint used to be Motor City. It's no longer Motor City. Where's all the motor? What about the kids here that are going hungry? They're not worried about those kids, obviously, and that's the kids they should be worried about. They shouldn't be worried about what's happening in some other country.
This has been a good deal for both Canada and the United States. Both have gained jobs, both have gained trade flows, both have become more competitive in the world marketplace as a result.
And there is a tooth fairy and there is an Easter bunny.
But